Monday, the fourth week. Just a few quick reminders as usual. Number one, please remember that this week is open. It's been open since Friday. You are more than welcome to do everything. You can do your final if you want. I'm not encouraging you to. I'm just saying some people have jobs now. Congratulations to those that do. I know some people, have other family situations. So just remember, the flexibility is there so that you can get things done on time. Class ends this Thursday at 10 o'clock. My friends, I cannot extend it 1 minute beyond that. The class ends at 10 o'clock for me as well. So please try and get everything done. Try to get all of your assignments in by this Wednesday, with the exception of your final project. All right. Today, we're just going to talk really briefly. We're in chapter 13, and it's talking about, your first day on the job. And, when we all first start something new, we have this thing called imposter syndrome. We've learned everything. We've made good grades in class. Now it's time for us to go and actually do the work. And a lot of people have imposter syndrome. And I'll tell you, you'll hear about people having this thing in any profession. You hear about celebrities having it, people, CEOs have it. I have it. Anytime you're doing something and you're not comfortable, you're not sure of yourself, you always question, like, is this really, is it who I think I am? Can I really do the job? And the fact of the matter is, obviously, it is you and you can do the job. You wouldn't be there if you couldn't. But, it's normal. And so we just want you to know that it's normal. So when you go into when you go into your job, chapter 13 is just telling you, reminding you of a couple things, nothing we don't know. Just, yeah, we know it's overwhelming. And your first couple of days are going to be weird. Now, you get all this adrenaline because you're going to start this new job. And then most times, the first couple of days, sometimes the first couple of weeks, you're just training. You're just sitting in these orientations and you're learning about the company. So just be prepared for that. And I would even ask, HR, what I should expect. Now, some of us may hit the ground running, but some may not, right? Make sure you have all your documents. You already know they're going to ask. You have to fill out these forms. These are federal guidelines, guys. The law states that if a company hires someone within 3 days, they have to say they have a new employee. They can't pay you under the table. That's what it's trying to prevent. So when they bring all your paperwork on those first couple of days, you don't want to, you need your social security card, your ID, those two for sure, because the company itself has to report that they have a new employee within 72 hours. So that's what that is about. But also, this is going to be your time to meet with HR. Some companies' HR, I'm being honest, the only time you hear from them is when you on board and when you off board. This is your time to ask questions, my friends. You don't want to show up at a job and start, asking, and I'm talking about after you get past orientation, and now you're trying to ask all these questions to the people that, you work with, and they're like, what about benefits? I don't have benefits. I take my wife's benefits or whatever. Like, you don't want to ask those questions with your coworkers. So when you have the undivided attention of HR, this is the time to ask questions. Clearly, we know that we need to be on time. We need to be, have a good attitude. Like I said, socially, you don't know these people and they don't know you, and you don't know who's who and who. Y'all know how it goes on job sites. So be friendly to everybody. You don't listen. My advice, I know we're all adults. I myself have been victim of walking into something and not knowing what was what, and then finding out things later that blew my mind. So just be slow, be patient, listen more and talk less. That is my advice to you when you get into these environments. Get to know your surroundings, right? Now, most of you won't have remote work, but there could be a situation where the onboarding could be remote. Most times it won't happen for you guys, but that could be a situation. Or because some of you may have jobs where you're on the road, right? So you may have a little office that you may pop into every now and then to do paperwork, but they should tell you those types of things. The most important thing is just for you to know the lay of the land, especially for those of you that are going to be on the road. Give me a thumbs up if somebody already has a job. If you already have a job lined up, give me a thumbs up. Let me see. Or if you're already working in your job, not any job. Okay. Look at the thumbs. I see y'all. A couple hands. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you do work where you have to travel. I go from site to site. Nelson, you do? Wow. Nelson, are you doing residential type stuff or is it commercial?
So I do a commercial. I'm an HVAC tech for Marriott. So I go to developing sites and make sure we're up to date.
Oh, that is so fun, y'all. Why I'm talking about it so fun. That's exciting. How long have you been doing that?
For about a year now.
Oh, so you've had it for a year.
Yeah, like I've been to Georgia, California, New York,
Wow.
Chicago.
So do you have a site that they let you come do paperwork in? Do you carry a laptop? How does that work?
I carry 2 laptops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you just like got to work from home when you off
When
the
I'm
road?
traveling, that's mainly when I do business work, and then I am on site. I make sure everything's up to date, and we have all our permits and such.
So do you have like a home base office or
Yeah, I have. I stay in Orlando, Sanford, obviously. So
Mhm.
I have my house there, and then we have our own main office business building there.
And how often do you go to the building?
Once every 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Y'all heard it here first, right? Anybody else has a traveling job? Okay. Well, there you go. So you heard it here first. So that's what happens, guys, So like Nelson, you may have a home office or, a home a base, like a corporate home base. And you'll learn about that if you do. Now, when it comes to new hire training, it varies. It depends on if you have the larger the institution, the more training you're going to get. Let me just tell you right now. The larger the institution, the more training. If it's a big company, they're gonna have to talk to you about a lot of different things, a lot of different divisions, do's and don'ts, getting all your equipment, all this stuff, right? So you could be in training for like a week. I know I did training for a week. Oh my God, I almost fell asleep through half of that stuff, but that's just how it goes, right? So new hire training may vary, but just be mindful of it. And I would ask, you need to, prepare yourself if you're going to be sitting in a conference room for the next 3 days, right? But again, you should expect to have some type of training, which is really, really good. This is where you get to learn everything. Who the chain of command is. You're touring the facilities. You're learning about the company. It's all to me. It's good. You get to learn what the strategic vision is of the institution and what it is they're trying to accomplish. If they have different sites throughout the country is really good. But most important, you get to ask the type of questions that you want to ask. And that is where you need to really think through, okay, is it that I want to know? Like, definitely you may have questions about what the hours are. Look at Nelson. He's all over the place. What do those hours look like? Nelson, if you don't mind, I hate putting you on the spot, but like, what are your hours? Does it vary? Do you just like depends on what the project is, or how does that even work? Do you just clock in from the computer?
So I make salary, and then I make a bonus for every project I complete earlier on time.
Hmm. So
So
do you have to do a
my
timesheet though?
I do. I have to because there's a lot.
So you
Um,
have to do times and materials. You
I
probably have to
think my
do the
worst
project.
hours was when I
Mm-hmm.
was in New York. I remember we
Mm-hmm.
were up at I think 3, 4 in the morning, and we wouldn't go to sleep till almost midnight. There was a
Wow.
lot of 48-hour shifts, a lot of repetition, and then I think my easiest one was actually in Miami, in which it was a regular 9 to 5. It just varies. It's very
Mm-hmm.
fluctuating.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that may be something that's important for some people, especially if you have family, you have certain, obligations or whatever the situation may be. So it's important to know what that looks like, right? Who do you call for an emergency? Obviously where you're going to get all your tech materials, all these different things, whatever questions you have, ask during this time period, security questions, whatever you think you need, especially if I was traveling, my expectation is I would have some type of company credit card or something like that. Or, you need to know if they expect you to foot the bill and then they reimburse you. Like that may be important for some of us. Some of us may not be in that position. So whatever question you can think of that you had not, asked, previously, this is the time to do it, right? HR is the most private you're going to get in terms of, one-on-one questions. Again, you don't want to go asking your coworkers and stuff, so here is where you want to ask those questions. Now, shifting gears a little bit, someone may also say, okay, you've been telling me to do all this networking and updating LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff. When do I let people know that I have a new job? Like, that's always really exciting. Um, do whatever you want to do. I am of the opinion I don't like showcasing jobs right away. I've had it burn me so many times. Um, I say wait it out. You know, if you could wait it out 30 days, I would wait it out. I like to wait mine out longer, um, 90 days or more. Because I want to make sure it's the right job for me, right? I want to make sure I don't want to go. Remember, guys, LinkedIn is about promoting yourself. You will have some companies, believe it or not, that want you to promote them on your social platforms, which I hate when companies ask that. I think it's a violation of privacy. Like, let me promote what I want to promote, but companies like to get their name out there. So don't be surprised if a company says, hey, could you put us on your LinkedIn? I don't like it, but whatever. But again, I've started at companies and, because I work as a consultant, then the project won't start, or I'll be on the project for a month and then they drop me, or I don't like the company and I'll drop the company, and I don't want to be changing my LinkedIn in and out like that, so I wait it out and before I just put I have a new job. Now I know it's so exciting when everybody know you have a new job and stuff like that, but a lot of times too, what'll happen is if someone else works at that company and once you put up that information, uh, they can have a alerts that, oh, someone else works at this company, and then everybody starts trying to friend you and stuff. And I was like, oh, I just want to wait it out. That's just me. But obviously, you want to make sure that you do update your network as soon as possible. But I say use your discretion. You'll know. A big thing that will happen once you start your career, and this also depends upon the sophistication of the institution, is performance evaluations. And give me a thumbs up if you've ever had a performance evaluation. Now, these things vary. Okay, I see a lot of thumbs. All right. So you already know what time it is, right? Now, the main thing I'm going to say about performance evaluation is this. Make sure, excuse me, tried to drink a couple sip of coffee real quick and I choked myself. Make sure that you keep track of your performance. Make sure you keep track of your performance. Make sure you keep track of your performance. What do you mean by that, Miss Taylor? Okay, let me tell you real quick. Here's how a performance evaluation process should work. You should start your job. Let's say we all started our new job February 1st. Within 30 to 60 days, they should sit you down, because remember, you're going to go through orientation and hopefully And they're going to tell you, oh my God, welcome to ABC Company. We're so happy to have you. I don't care what company it is. And let me tell you what we're trying to do. Let me tell you how we're trying to grow. Let me tell you about all our products and services. I don't care if you're in, VA or HVAC or welding, electrical, it's all the same. They're going to tell you about their company and what they're trying to do. They're going to get you all excited about how they're trying to grow and how they're trying to expand and da 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 da. They're going to tell you all that. Now, what they're not going to tell you is how your specific job fits into that. So what should happen is your immediate supervisor should at some point within those first 60 days sit you down and say, okay, Bob, you've heard the strategic vision of the institution. Now let me tell you how what we're doing to apply to that. So let's say the company decides it wants to expand. We are going to expand into 5 territories this within the next 5 years, right? And this year we're going to focus on this particular region. So our company is trying to get 10 different projects going for this year for this region. It's our job, right? It's our job to maintain all of the clients that we currently have and to work on 2 of those 10 projects. Like, you should know exactly how what you're doing ties into the vision. If you work for a really good company, and the only reason why I say really good, I'm not suggesting that people that don't do it are not good, but let's go with sophisticated. Sophisticated institutions understand the importance of their people understanding the mission and how they fit into it, right? You should not just be, oh, I'm just going to work, I'm making donuts, like we're working at Target or Dunkin' Donuts or something, right? You should know specifically how what you're doing ties into the vision. Why? That gives the buy-in that you're part of the process now, right? You're an agent of the institution. And then what your boss should then tell you is, okay, here's how you specifically tie into it. Because we have been tasked with 2 projects for the year and maintaining our customer base. In order to maintain our customer base, what we've decided is every project, every customer that you have, whether you're going out doing customers, whether you're just seeing, pet owners, whether you are, working for residential clients doing electrical work, it doesn't even matter. You specifically, we want to make sure that every single customer that you engage with gets a 95% satisfaction, because with 95%, we've done the numbers. This is what the higher ups do sitting in their office. They run all these numbers, and anybody that has a 95% satisfaction rate will tend to stay with the company. And we want to make sure that your roster, you see 20 customers a month. So they've done their little numbers and they said that if everybody does 20 customers a month and they keep a 95% success rate, that should help them maintain their client base, right? And they'll get through their 2 projects. So strategically, everything that you do should be tying into the bigger picture. So if your boss tells you this, they'll say, okay, so this is how we're going to evaluate you throughout the year. All your customers have to be 95% satisfied or higher, and you have 20 customers that you have to get through a month. You see how clear that vision should be? So when you go throughout, now you can go into your job knowing exactly what it is you have to do. That's what a really good company should do. Now, if they're really, really savvy, they'll say in 6 months, we're going to sit down with you and we're going to see where you're at. Oh, great, Thomas. We see that your satisfaction rates are 80 and 99%, 98%. You're doing amazing. You keep up the good work. We even saw that you covered for some of your coworkers, and that you were able to do 22 clients. So we're really excited about that, right? See how that goes? So by the end of that year, there should be no surprises about what your performance evaluation is going to be. So, Ms. Taylor, what do I do if I work for a company that doesn't do any of that? This is where you need to manage up. If I'm sitting down with a company and they haven't told me their vision, they haven't explained to me how what I'm doing ties into the bigger picture, I'm not going to be rude and act like I'm overly sophisticated. I'm just going to go to my boss one day and hopefully they're having one-on-one meetings with you, if not weekly, because that may be too much, bi-weekly or at least once a month. You should be having some type of FaceTime with your boss. And I will ask, in a very nonchalant way, because, like I said, not everybody goes through, not everybody knows. I'll say, hey, one, especially if we do performance evaluations, because you don't want to get into a situation where you're working at a company and they just try to throw something together at the end of the year. Give me a thumbs up if you ever worked with a company that just tried to throw something together at the end of the year. We all know those types of companies. And I hate that because it can come back to bite you. And I'll explain why in a second, right? We don't want that drama. So what I normally do, if my boss hasn't sat down with me, because you don't know this person, you don't know how they think, right? And you definitely don't know how they do evaluations. And you need to take control of your career right on the outset. You always have to keep your goals in mind and you are steering this ship. I would say, hey, Tom, you know, I just want to make sure that, we're on the same page and, perform in the way that, is needed for the team. You always want to, frame it such that you want to make sure that you're giving your all. Anybody that's ever played sports, you know how that goes, the same way you would talk to your coach. And let Tom tell you what he expects, right? Because if Tom hasn't told you what he expects, then you need to go and make sure, right? Nobody wants any surprises. You're working hard, you're helping all your coworkers, you're staying late, but then Tom's mad at you because you never helped him do the other project that he never asked you to do. And so now Tom feels like you're not a good worker. And here you are thinking that you're killing it, right? You don't like that. Nobody likes that type of drama. So you need to make sure, Tom, I just want to know, what you need from me to make sure that I'm successful, whatever. And listen to what Tom has to say. That's how you just, because again, Tom should have told you, but not all Toms know what they're doing. So you need, what I really need from everybody now uh, is to make sure that, we get these 3 projects done this week. We know we have, our quotas to get our 20 customers a month, and that's great, and we got to finish out, these 2 projects by the end of the year. But we have these 3 different tasks that we need to do, and we're really behind because Sarah, blah, blah, they're going to give you their sob story, all, whatever. I'm not calling it a sob story, but they have a lot going on, right? So they're going to give it to you. You get to hear what your supervisor wants. That's very, very important. Very, very important. Why? Because now it puts the ball in your court. Now you know what you need to do to work through that with that person. It's very, very important. So by the time that end of the year comes, you're going to keep track of everything. You're going to keep track of your success rates. Don't let It's not Tom's job. Y'all see, especially if you have a Tom that's all over the place. Anybody ever had a Tom or a Sarah that's all over the place? We know about those type of bosses. So don't let your boss keep track of your success. Keep track of if you're doing a good 95% or more. Keep track if you're getting 20 customers. Keep track, and it's not that you're trying to keep score, but if you're helping out because Timothy couldn't make it in because his car broke down and you had to take over Timothy's junk stuff, keep track of that. Why? At the end of the year, when it's time for you to do your evaluation, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna tell you right now, Tom is not gonna remember everything you did. Tom is gonna come to you and say, could you, it's time for evaluations. Could you write down a couple of things that you did? Now, what happens with evaluations, you get scored, right? Anybody ever done it? Done their evaluations knows you're gonna get scored. And Tom probably is going to just try to score everybody the same, average, 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 because he's just trying to get through it, right? We know Tom's. You're going to write down everything that you did because 9 times out of 10, Tom forgot. Now, it doesn't mean that Tom is not, but if you also help Tom, especially with that third task, and you check in with Tom, if anything else you need, Tom, he's going to be very, very happy with you, even if he doesn't, technically know why. He may know, oh, okay, because this person, always asks me if I need something. But you're going to remind Tom of all the other stuff that you've done. So when it's time for them to evaluate your performance, they can't help but to give you a satisfaction or better. Don't ever leave that type of ambiguity on the table. This is how you manage your own work, right? So always keep track of what you do. So when it's time for you to get a performance evaluation, you can contribute to it. Nobody could ever say, especially what if Tom leaves, right? And here comes Patricia and she's only been at the company for 3 months and she has to do your evaluation. Patricia doesn't know you from Adam. Now you already can see how that can go downhill because Patricia could have a whole other mindset about how she feels about employers should work. And you need to be able to present Patricia with everything that you've done. So this is important because especially if you ever go work for the government, a lot of times they'll want to see your performance evaluations. If your supervisor leaves a job, like I said, here comes Patricia, and then you decide to leave 2 months after Patricia, but you need a reference. You may not want to get it from Patricia, but and you could tell the person, especially if the company's like, oh, but we want a reference from your old employer. You could be like, well, okay, well, my supervisor's gone, but here's my performance evaluations. You know, sometimes companies don't like to even give references. Most companies have shied away from that. But even at best, the HR could say, yes, this person worked here. Yes, they're rehireable. And you could say, and here's my evaluation. That's the main reason why you want to make sure that evaluation is on point, because you want to use your evaluations as a reference. Does that make sense? So take that into your own hand. It's very important, guys. That's the paper trail that people put on you, and you don't want somebody else just messing up your paper trail, because people will do it, and most times it's because they just don't know what they're doing. All right. So we already talked about etiquette, last week or so. We know, there's going to be a lot of different rules and stuff, and, what you should do and shouldn't do. Y'all know these social norms. When it comes to environments, a company has a culture and they have a climate. So the culture of the company could be they're very congenial, they're very family oriented. They may have a lot of activities. That's the culture, right, of the institution. The climate could be, but they want you to work really, really hard, so things are really, really intense. You guys have to, the climate could be everybody's expected to maybe, work 80 hours a week and, no time off. So there's going to be a culture and a climate at every company. And it's something that you want to take note of. It's not just the etiquettes that you see here, because that could be part of the culture, and in the climate as well. Sometimes you have those CEOs. I know I work for a company where the CEO was very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I worked for two that very interesting CEOs. One was a person where, she used to stomp around the campus. That's just what she did. It wasn't a school. I'm just calling it campus, but we had a huge, huge place. And we all knew when she was coming. She used to walk so hard that we could, if you're in the basement, you could hear her from the second floor, because she just used to stomp around, right? So they used to call her Bigfoot. And we all knew when Bigfoot was walking around, because everybody knew the duck and hide. Like, you don't want that type of drama, but you'll learn it. There's always going to be some type of culture at your institution. It's important for you to understand what that culture is and to abide by it. They say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? So that's why I always tell people, when you come into something, come low, right? Come low, lay low, see what's happening. I know you're like, Miss Taylor, okay, we're adults, but I've seen so many adults get in trouble because not everybody has social awareness, and we call it emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is being aware of yourself and understanding that sometimes you have to, take the temperature and the lay of the land before you, do whatever. All right. One of the other things that you'll also do, in addition to tons of training, is workplace safety. Y'all should already know that workplace safety is going to be a big deal for all of your respective fields. So you're going to get a lot of training, not just when you start, but throughout the year. You're going to get tons of training. You're going to get tons of inspection, OSHA, government, all types of assessments and training and work site visits. Y'all just get ready for that, right? So the hazardous training is going to be a lot, because every last one of you are in fields where accidents can happen, right? So you'll get tons and tons of training, and that's it. All right. I want to get done by 10:30. I did it. All right. So that's that with chapter 10. Here's your live conference question. I just want to know, what is your biggest first day anxiety? That's your question. While you're doing that, sure it's nobody here, but make sure you check your grades. Some of you have notes, specifically the resume. If you did not turn in a signed resume, you don't get points for turning in an unsigned resume. Signed resume. You know, I keep saying that if you don't turn it in by Wednesday, then you're gonna get what you get. You know, if you turned in a resume and it's not signed, you're gonna get partial points. So I keep get it signed and turn it back in. Get it signed and turn it back in. All right, my friends. That's the biggest thing. Also remember to turn in your thank you note. And I know that one or two people had their interviews late. That's fine. Please make sure you go back in and do that debrief. You still have until Wednesday, all right? All right, my friends. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.